In this episode of the IT Experts podcast, we talk with Mark Taylor from Chorus about why you need to start delivering managed security services. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast, the only podcast to help MSPs scale to 1 million, and if already there, get to 5 and go faster. At the end of the day, isn't it all about building a business that works for you rather than you for it? I hope you enjoy the show. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the IT Experts podcast. I'm totally out of my comfort zone today. We're going to talk a little bit techie, and we're going to be talking with Mark Taylor from Chorus around managed security services, really working out how to protect your MSP, what you need to do, what the guys at Chorus, amazing things that the guys at Chorus are doing. And, you know, it's always a prevalent subject. Security is always really important, as we know. So welcome to the show, Mark. How are you doing this afternoon?
Good, Ian. Nice to be talking to you. And as you say, it seems to have been a hot button topic for a couple of years now, doesn't it? So
it always is, isn't it? I think there's always something that pops up. And we were talking about a recent breach attack, whatever you want to call it, in the last couple of days at the Growth Hub. And the thing that was really, really scary about it, and we know that MSPs are, hot targets for the bad guys. It's just the simplest little thing, leaving the back door open, the cat flap open, and the little buggers have got in, and before you know it, you're in disaster recovery mode and in a right old mess, aren't you? So before we get cracking, Mark, just explain to everybody, why are we talking today? Who are you? What do you do? And who do you help?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of my role for me personally, I'm the CTO at Chorus. I'm actually one of the founders, so that usually just means I'm the oldest one around here. Been here, so we're started as a traditional MSP, been going about 24 years, and these days is kind of we've got a bit of scale to us, and we've got three streams. So we've got the traditional managed services, we've got Dynamics practice, so we're very much a Microsoft focused house, 100% Microsoft. And then our newest practice, which has been going for about 5 years now, which is the security one, which we'll talk a little bit about our experiences with that today.
Yeah, excellent stuff. From a security point of view for MSPs, what's your view on kind of what's happened in the last 18 months and where's the focus need to be, at a real high super 60,000 foot level for MSPs right now?
Yeah, it's actually, you mentioned that attack recently, right? I mean, I think the thing is, you highlighted there quite correctly, that it's the simplest things, right? The simplest things will always trip people up. And I think that historically, maybe, a few years back, people thought about security as some kind of bolt down the gates, make sure the walls are good. Let's really see ourselves in. And, we're obviously well and truly past those days now. You do have to accept that no matter how high you set the bar for yourself, there will always be some way in. And actually what MSPs need to think about for themselves and for their customers is that, okay, they're probably going to get in. What am I going to do to see them when they do come in? That's the ideal thing. You want to catch them as quickly as possible when they do come in. And, how am I going to protect myself as far as possible, both from an individual technical point of view, but also from just a resilience point of view? What am I going to do to make sure that if that bad thing does happen, I've got myself a backup option over here? So it's nothing magical. Let's be really clear. I know a lot of people want to sell it as voodoo sauce, but it's not. It's you just got to do the basics and do the basics well. And we're lucky to also live in a time where there's lots of options, right? We're not in a world where it's you've got A, B, or C. You've got A through Z pretty much. So there's a size and an approach that will fit everybody. You've got to find the one that works best for you, and then just really make sure you do it well.
And I think, do you know what? I think you hit the nail on the head there. Crime, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, you may not know this, it's been around since King Herod, hasn't it? Because I don't think he was a great guy. And, it doesn't really change, does it? I've got something, you've got something that I want, I'm going to nick it off you, and we're not going to have a contract or exchange. So whether that's shoplifting in the 80s or whatever it might be, that's the kind of the thing. And I think now, or back then it was a case of lock the doors. But I think, as you say now, No, you've got A to Z. You've got this combination lock that's massive digital. You can't even see half of it. And, when we were doing a session, a particular session yesterday, as I say, with our clients, you could see the light bulbs going on. And the thing that came to light for me, and I've, mentioned this many times, I'm not technical, is where the hell do I start with this? Do I need Z? Do I need Z? Do I need T? Do I need A? Do I need B? What the hell do I do? And, we kind of got talking around a framework. So whether you're using NIST or whether you're using any of the other frameworks, is that a good place to start? Analyze yourself on that. We got talking about insurances, your professional indemnity insurance, negligence. Oh my God. Well, you can imagine we went for nearly 2 hours on this subject. In your view, and as a CTO, and obviously protecting your business as well as you can, where should people start if they're going, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing that, I should be using that. Yes, I need to use 2FA. I need to do this, I need to do that, but I'm not quite sure, because it literally is. That's just that one little update that patch might not be done. What's your kind of
I mean, if you read the studies, and obviously I've already said we happen to be a Microsoft focused organization, and they release each year a thing called the MDDR, the Microsoft Digital Defense Report, which is always interesting reading, to be honest. One of the things that pulls out, and it's been fairly consistent for a few years now, is that it's still possible if you do the basic security hygiene stuff, and let's face it, for the vast majority of organizations and people, that means properly implemented MFA. If you do that properly and you do that well, and I emphasize that word properly, then you know what, 98% of your risk is already starting to be mitigated. Right now, unfortunately, the 2% that's left is still a pretty big chunk. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it's still a pretty big chunk. And you do have to think about those things. The other reference I always give to people is that, we've got that historical world of security, again, going back a few years, where your endpoints, you're all about the antivirus on the endpoint, whoever that happened to be. We know all the big names, the McAfees, the Sophos of the world, right? And you thought about endpoint and antivirus, anti-malware. And you still need to think about that a little bit. However, really, today's world, you need to be thinking about what the rest of the world now calls endpoint detection and response, or managed detection and response, right? And really, the really easy way to think about that, and what I always say to people when I'm talking to them is that, look, if you think about the way we all work today, you've got maybe a handful of servers. We live in a cloud world these days, so less and less servers perhaps, but you've got a handful of servers in your business. You've got a whole load of endpoints, laptops, iPads, iPhones, whatever it happens to be. And where do your staff spend their time working day in, day out, right? And it's on the endpoint. So in terms of the risk, where the risk exposure is, it's the endpoint, because all day, every day, those users are receiving those emails from customers, partners, the nefarious third parties. They're clicking on the websites, they're doing the drive-bys on the adverts from the websites that are even legitimate websites. And so just by the sheer mathematics of the amount of time spent doing work on an endpoint, you need to think about your endpoints. So for me, encouraging customers and partners to move on from a traditional AV anti-malware approach back in the day to a modern managed detection and response, or endpoint detection and response, you can call it what you like, sort of a modern threat-based approach on your endpoints. That is absolutely the place I would encourage everybody to start, because that's where you're going to get highest value.
Okay. So we talk about MSPs, we know what an MSP is, and we're talking about our customers looking for managed security. They certainly want you to look after their IT and make sure everything's all hunky-dory and stuff like that. But now they now want you to start managing security. Does that mean everyone's got to turn into an MSSP? And what is an MSSP anyway?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously we've had a few years now of the MSSP moniker in existence, and everybody's inserted that security word into the description. And I think when it first appeared, it was a way for certain organizations to differentiate themselves in terms of what they delivered, and it still is today a little bit. But truthfully, actually, I also say to the partners we work with today, you're all MSSPs, all right? Because nobody is not doing security, right? Even if you're not delivering the the kind of security we might talk about in a little more detail, the kind of full-blown 24/7 security operations center security. Even if you're not doing that, you are going to be talking to your customers about 2FA. You're going to be talking to your customers about things like conditional access and tying down their machines and doing the basic security and hygiene. You're going to be doing that. And in my opinion, that makes all of us an MSSP. We are all having those security conversations. So everybody's one today, really. I think it's just varying degrees, and some specialize a little more than others. That's all.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm listening to all this stuff going on and I'm going, well, hang on a minute. Don't we? If we just add that to that, doesn't that mean that adds?
Yeah.
Talk to me about your journey, because you guys have built your own CSOC, haven't you?
Yeah.
So what is SOC? What is a CSOC? Why do MSPs need it? Why do businesses need it? What was your kind of driver behind your investment in this?
Yeah, so I start with the easy stuff, right? So SOC and CSOC, interchangeable terms again, in my opinion. So it's just Security Operations Center or Cybersecurity Operations Center. And really, again, I think obviously most MSPs will be familiar with NOC, so Network Operations Center, that concept of a 24/7 team sort of monitoring things in terms of infrastructure. It's exactly the same principle, but for security. And they're monitoring via various bits of tooling for things that just don't look right in a security context, really. It's obviously changed over the years, and a modern SOC works a little bit differently to perhaps the way they did 5-10 years ago, as you would expect. But that's fundamentally what a SOC does, is just sit there 24/7 and monitor security for you and take actions. The reason we ended up there is because we'd had our historical MSP practice. We had those customers, and what we basically saw with a handful of those larger customers a few years ago is that they were exposed to some of those sort of more well-known attacks back a few years ago. And we looked at it and we were just thinking, there's got to be something better we can do about this. And that was kind of what really triggered it for us, right? So we started looking. It just happens that was, again, because we're a very Microsoft-focused house, sort of late 2018, 2019 was when Microsoft launched their Sentinel product, which is their SOC cloud product, SIEM product for the cloud. And we just timing kind of all fell into place, and we went, yeah, now's the right time. Let's figure out how we can use this for our customers and deliver a service, really. So that's where we started. And yeah, we decided ourselves, certainly not what every MSP does, obviously, MSSP does, but we decided to build one out for ourselves.
Cool. So you've got then, this is where I'm at the point of either making myself look relatively intelligent or completely stupid. You've got your help desk looking after the network, finding out what's going on with there. You've got your NOC that's making sure that kind of everything's up and running, and then you've got a third one, which is the SOC, where we're looking at. It's kind of what you said at the top of the hour. We're just checking the CCTV cameras to find out the bad guys as and when they're coming in. So you've got these three elements. So did I get that right?
You did, yeah, absolutely. I'm not watching CCTV, but I get the principle. And in fact, actually, just as a point, that's one of the reasons people sometimes pull out the difference between a SOC and a CSOC. So that SOC sometimes for large organizations has a broader remit, and they might actually look at CCTV, whereas a CSOC is very much obviously just the digital version.
When I meant CCTV, I meant metaphorically speaking, watching the bad guys come and breaking in your back
door. Yeah, absolutely.
But CCTV as well. Yeah, if you got you need anyone to come and help on your help desk, just give us a shout, and I'll be sure to help you out. So if we take those three areas, we kind of got your help desk, you've got all your automation, then we've got the SOC, and then the NOC sitting there as well. Where most MSPs are sitting there, are they just relying on the kind of the help desk, and then any flags that come up as and when stuff happens with their security products, whereas you're actively looking for things before they get detected? Is that the difference?
Yes and no. So, yes, we certainly, there are plenty of MSPs out there today working in that fashion where they've got some security tooling. Security tooling detects something, whatever it happens to be, and it raises an alert to sort of standard IT team, and they triage it, they look at it, they decide to take some action, and they might do something. And obviously all that happens over a course of time, right? Our version of it, sort of the modern SOC version, is we are still detecting the the word we tend to use is anomalous. We're detecting the activity that doesn't look right. So we're detecting that unusual activity. That might be a login that doesn't look right. It might be a file that's executing that doesn't look right. It could be a whole range of things, but we're detecting that thing that doesn't look right. When we detect that thing that doesn't look right, the difference with the SOC operation is it works fast and it takes definitive action. So from the moment that thing is detected that doesn't look right, currently, as we operate today, our mean time to get to that thing and start looking at it in detail is about 4 minutes. Our mean time to take definitive action and contain a threat, and that's what we talk about today, is containing threats, is about 11 minutes. So from the minute it's happened, 11 minutes later, if we've detected something that definitely looks out of place, we've pushed a button and we've contained that threat. And we've locked a wall around it so that it can't get anywhere else on your network, basically.
Cool. So with the SOC operation, which obviously you've got great opportunity for a pitch there, but with the SOC operation that you've got, does that protect the whole MSP, or do you just have that for certain clients, or how does that kind of work?
Very much, it's an optional thing. So
Okay.
for us, it's we obviously, when we started, we built it up, right? Today, I would say well in excess of 95% of our MSP customers are also SOC customers, and we operate very much as we treat the SOC treats the NOC as a client. So 95% of our MSP customers are using the SOC. So yeah, it's just a choice. It's a choice for everyone. Obviously everybody's looking for different levels of sophistication, different levels of security, and everybody makes their own individual choice about what level they think is suitable for them.
Okay, no, that's good. I guess that depends on the risk profile of their end customers, on what they've got kind of coming in terms of a different risk from whether it be someone sitting out there on a contractor, or if it's someone who's in a professional services business with high levels of multi users and all of that kind of stuff.
Totally. Okay. Yeah, okay. Exactly.
So when we look at the MSP and then we look at the end user, the end users very much are just kind of like saying, just keep us safe and secure and everything like that. And then it's the MSP who's going, right, I need to use all these various new, techniques, because we were talking earlier on, we were preparing for the show, just around, MDR, the managed detection and response, and MXDR. What is MDR and MXDR, and why are they different? And where does the application of that sit with different MSPs or clients?
Yeah. So it's obviously they're all broadly the same thing. They just have subtle variations in between them. We talked a little bit earlier about that endpoint risk profile and how MDR, managed detection and response, is where I certainly recommend most businesses start in terms of getting those endpoints protected. So what then tends to happen is that businesses, as naturally happens with anything in IT, they mature and they get comfortable with that initial service, and they're kind of like, okay, this is working well, but I can see that now there are other areas that I could improve the security on across my estate. And so the way the MXDR, so the X is inserted there for extended, kind of an industry term, so managed extended detection response. And again, the way we describe it to partners and customers is quite simply that you're expanding the scope of things that you're looking at. So we've obviously talked about the fact that for the MDR, we just look at laptops, let's say, laptops and endpoints, or servers and laptops. With MXDR, we start to look at things like, we start to look at sign-in logs on domain controllers. We start to look at cloud sign-ins. We start to look at email traffic in a lot more detail than we do on the MDR service. So what we start to do is we're pulling in more and more pieces. And obviously, the more data sources you have, the more you can see. And that gives you that sometimes slightly quicker, sometimes slightly more detailed option to catch a threat sooner than if you just wait until it hits the endpoint. So it's just about looking at a little bit more. You're just broadening out your view and looking at more information really as you go up the service to an MXDR.
Okay. So and can that application, and that function there, can that be provided by standard MSP practices, or do you need a specific SOC that's built, or CSOC that's built to deliver that? Is that a function that can sit outside?
Yeah, I mean, my experience is that everybody, as is always the case, has got every flavor, right? So there are MSSPs I've worked with who, kind of take a set of security tooling, they let it do its MDR thing, and they pick up the alerts and they handle it themselves. I've seen ones where they get to a certain point and they realize perhaps actually we need this 24/7. So do we build that out ourselves? And some I've seen build it themselves. Some want to then outsource it at that point. To be honest with you, there's every kind of flavor imaginable. So it's back to that individual MSPs. Okay, where are our strengths? Where are our scope? What scope have we got to make that expansion, right? Because obviously one of the things you do get to pretty quickly with security is 24/7 is really the only viable approach, to be honest. Yeah, because we all know those threats aren't going to stop at 6 p.m., right? So that's probably, I would say, one of the key challenges MSPs face is, what am I going to do with the out of hours? Because my clients are going to be working out of hours. The threats are still going to be there out of hours.
Threats don't stop at 6 o'clock, do
no,
they?
No. And so that's usually, in my experience, the point where even MSSPs that decide to stick their toe in the water a bit and try and do some of that stuff go, okay, how do we move it to the next level? And that's where you start to make your big choices about left or right.
And that's as you're kind of talking about with the CSOC and the SOC, and that's I'm guessing that's a department of people who are just out there looking at they're looking at stuff, got loads of automation, just pretty much like a help desk, but they're doing that kind of on your behalf.
Yeah, exactly. And again, like I said, we live in a world that's great. There's lots of choice, right? So there are some truly global players out there that everybody will know the names of, the CrowdStrikes of the world, Dark Traces, and they're effectively offering that kind of service. I would argue it's a little bit different, but nonetheless, broadly it's similar. And then you've got options all the way down to the very end of the SMB market, where again you can just go and outsource for what is quite frankly a very reasonable cost a monitoring service 24/7 for your customers' endpoints. And like I said, it's great. We live in a world with lots of good choices and good options.
So with those options, why do you think why are companies moving more to like the Microsoft for the security side of things and the XDR element?
Yeah, I think we are definitely seeing a bit of that, no doubt about that. And I think there's probably a couple of reasons. I think that one of the reasons is that we've obviously had years now of businesses moving to Microsoft's productivity suite. So they've gone the Office 365 to Microsoft 365 route, and in the Microsoft 365 space, customers have either got or have started to move towards things like Microsoft 365 Business Premium as a particular line item because it offers quite a lot of value at a certain price point. And Microsoft have chosen to include their EDR product in that license. So suddenly what you've got is a lot of customers who have got licenses and they're looking at their estate and they're going, well, hang on a minute, I've got this Microsoft security product, Defender for Endpoint, in my license. It's supposed to be pretty good. Why would I pay for, I don't know, whatever it is, some other third-party solution? And I think that's one of the drivers. I think the other driver is, to be honest with you, is that, again, we live in a world where I think everybody appreciates that to do cybersecurity well, the one thing you need to have is lots and lots and lots of data. You need to have as much data as possible because you're using that data to then look for what looks normal and what doesn't look normal. And obviously Microsoft, by definition, I think the most recent stat I've seen is they're currently processing 72 trillion signals per day in their cloud. And I think we all know that any provider would struggle to have the volume of data available to them that Microsoft do. So I think between the sort of huge volumes of data, which makes doing a security job easier, versus the licensing inclusion, what we're just seeing is customers just coming to their MSP and they're saying, I'd like to take a look at the Microsoft option, please. So I think that's what's driving some of it.
Mark, so it'd be remiss of me not to mention the 2-letter acronym that is on everybody's lips at the moment. AI, data. We talked a lot, everyone talks about it's going to change the world, it's going to do this, it makes everything easier. But also a lot of people talking about it, and the guys from Uptime Solution, Jason and Bradley, were saying they've built their own machine learning thing because they want to control the data. I don't want to have anybody's open source data in there. We're hearing every week, I use this now, it detects whether a client's unhappy or not. I've got this is great. But for me, it's like opening up all those little cat flaps again and opening up all of these things. So, what's your kind of view on how AI is going to change the security landscape, particularly for MSPs?
Yeah, definitely. I think we all know we're at a bit of a turning point with it. That's for sure. So we've got an interesting few years ahead of us, which is great. I think in every space is going to be touched by it, as you said, and security for sure. Security is actually one of those areas where they've been heavily investing for a few years, to be fair, because everybody wants to do that machine learning thing and find those anomalies faster. So I think it's a great space to be using AI in. We're actually, so obviously we've already talked about the fact we're Microsoft focused. So Microsoft have what they call their security co-pilot, which is their AI for security, and we're actually we're a preview partner for that, so we have access to it. So we're live using AI today to do some of our security stuff, and it's what you'd expect probably, which is it's about bringing information to people faster, bringing it to them more effectively, and obviously when analysts are doing work, that's really a lot of what they're doing, right? It's collating information, making decisions, and pushing buttons. So AI is inevitably going to speed that up and improve that. So I think there's definitely, I think really we're only scratching the surface there. I think actually over time it'll get better and better. I still think that personally, again, certainly of what I've seen so far, we're a way off. It's not about replacing people at all. It is about supporting people. It's about enhancing what they can do, doing more, doing it faster. It's not about replacing people, in my experience. So we'll see how that plays out. One of the things for sure is that things are changing so fast. I wouldn't even want to guess what's going to be here in 12 months' time.
Or in 12 days' time.
In 12 days' time, indeed.
Christmas, wasn't it, at that time, by the time of recording?
Yeah.
Mark, thank you ever so much for your time this afternoon in putting the show together and structuring it to give it, to give that value for all the MSPs listening to today. Really serious issue. I don't think this is going to be the last conversation you and I are going to have on this. I think there are going to be many, many more. So we'll probably be wheeling you in as and when things change and develop. But in the meantime, do you want to just explain to everybody kind of what it is, what you've got, how they can get in contact with you if they want to continue the conversation, and we can put all the links in the show notes.
Yeah, sure. So, I can be found in all the usual places, as they say, to be honest. So, obviously, hang out on LinkedIn, and I refuse to call it X, but let's say the Twitters of the world. So, can be found in all the usual spaces, and happy to chat our experiences of security, building a security practice. Like I said, I've talked to MSPs doing every flavor of it. Obviously, our particular flavor of it is very much about supporting other MSPs these days. So that puts us in a good place to have those conversations with MSPs who are trying to make decisions about what they do next. So yeah, always happy to chat.
So LinkedIn, Twitter, all of those kind of places. Mark Taylor.
Yeah, indeed.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, well, thanks ever so much. Good luck with everything you've got going on. Sounds like you guys have got a lot going on. So keep safe, keep happy, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. Cheers, Mark. Bye, mate.
Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, I'd love it if you could leave a rating and review on your favourite podcast platform. If you want to learn more about how to take your MSP to 1 million, or if you're already there, go faster, then come and join Stuart Warwick and myself in the Scale with Confidence Facebook group. The link is in the show notes. You go and enjoy the rest of your day, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.